the welcome back to Last Stop Recovery. Oh,
Yeah.
we're good.
Or
Welcome back to Last Stop Recovery.
Welcome back.
I'm Chelsea. My clean day is February 13th, 2019.
My name's Jay. Mine is August 15th, 2017. And
Welcome
welcome
to our first episode.
Yeah. We are not really sure what we're going to talk about today, but I feel like we kind of were talking before,
Yeah.
especially about how we do when we go to our groups. I had kind of mentioned that whenever I do my shares, especially in a group, sometimes they can be a little, I don't know if they're genuine sometimes, or I don't know if I'm just trying to like go with the vibe of that room, but I know a lot of times I end up thinking I didn't make enough people laugh in my share.
That's because we're the class clowns.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I don't know, because I know like the biggest thing about the program is giving up control, because it's like, you know, the whole time throughout my life I was trying to control my life and I was doing a terrible job at it. And now I'm supposed to be on this thing where I've given up control and
To your higher power.
and, and everything I do, I keep trying to control something or somehow, some way about the way I share.
Yeah. So me and Jay, a little bit of background. We met in our home group, or it's my home group. We met in the rooms. And we clicked because of our shares, because they are so unfiltered and unhinged.
Right.
And we're always looking for laughs. And we should be helping the newcomers and the new people that are
Should
trying
be.
to get their feet wet in the program. And we're equally bad at it. We might cause people to not come back.
I've tried to be there to help, and it's just it's one of the hardest things to do. I have somebody that helps me all the time. I can call on them, and it's like they can tell me exactly what's going on with me in my head. But I have yet to be able to have that power of here's what I think you should do, you know, because I feel like if somebody were to call me and go, hey, I'm having these issues, even if they're the same things as me, I'd be like, we'll figure it out, man, you know.
Go figure your stuff out. Why are you here?
Right? Yeah.
No, we both have a hard time gracefully expressing ourselves. And we make a lot of jokes.
Lots of them.
And that's just kind of our coping thing because we're so uncomfortable.
Right.
But we know we have to talk about our feelings and be honest with ourselves. The level of honesty we give to other people can be a little jarring, a little off-putting. So we decided to start a podcast.
Yeah. And I mean, because I talked to a therapist a couple times
Yeah,
a
and we're
month.
into that. So,
Yeah.
like, we're not therapists. We're not licensed professionals by
No.
any means. We're just two humans trying our best to be better than we were yesterday.
And Last Stop Recovery this was the last stop for us. I mean,
Yeah.
the biggest thing is, even though it may not be graceful or pretty today, it's a lot better than it used to be almost 7 years ago, you know? So I feel like personally I'm in a way better space than I was several years ago. And I mean, even if it's hard for me to give advice or hard for me to be there to help somebody, I'm still available.
Yeah, we're so willing to
Yeah.
do it, even though it looks a little bit different. And I agree, like, some days are still super messy, but there's no equivalence to how I lived 5.5 years ago. Like, this is the prettiest mess version of me that's existed. And, like, life gets really lifey. And that's part of sobriety. It's part of recovery. We don't know how normies get through life because we've never been normies. So, I don't...
No.
by any means.
No. And it's so funny because like my family, I feel like they are normies. Like I've brought this up in some of my shares, like especially about my sister. She's this type of person that can go to a restaurant, her and her husband, and they'll go like, they're like the type of people that'll go and have a beer, and in the middle of having a beer, realize, oh, I don't really like this, and it's like that's not how.
That's precious.
Yeah, that's not how I ever drink. It's like it didn't matter if I liked it, I was finishing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, did the taste ever matter?
I don't.
Because I was seeking the effect, full blown.
Because I honestly, if I'm honest with myself, I never liked the taste of any of it.
Yeah, I know. It all tastes terrible.
Because it was bad.
But like, I needed that mental twist. I needed to not feel like myself because I was so uncomfortable in my own skin.
I liked the effect. And for whatever reason, and you and I think this is the other thing that you and I have in common is you said it the other day, we were kind of silver spoon babies.
Yeah.
Like, we are not from families that are just, these tormented.
We did not have orphanage stories.
Like your parents have been married their entire.
Yeah, my parents have been together since they were 16.
Yeah, my parents met and are still together to this day, alive. And like, I think your parents own a business.
Yeah.
My parents also own.
Our parents are successful.
Yeah, very successful people.
And then there's us.
and yet here we are. We're these.
Yeah.
We're struggling with just how to do life, and I don't think we're the only people that suffer from that.
I think that our stories were so clean that we felt the need to add a little. We had to add a little something.
Like every once in a while, I kind of wonder, like, do I deserve to be here? But then I kind of think about the ways I drank, and it's like, that's still not a normal person. Like it's
and it wasn't just drinking either for me. It was like anything.
Yeah.
So like anything that made me feel a little bit different. I was 100% for it.
And I mean, mine was I really. If I would have quit sooner, I probably would have been more substance, but it kind of just turned into I could get a hold of alcohol easier.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to call somebody. I didn't have to drive down and meet somebody to get alcohol. I could just walk into a gas station or store or whatever, and they had it.
Yeah, here it's so accessible. Other states, like, alcohol is a little bit different, but where we live, you can get alcohol anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
And a lot of people drink at all times of the day. So if like you're getting shooters at 6 a.m., that's not weird.
I wasn't the only one in line at the gas station getting.
Yeah, there's people in business suits, construction outfits. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I was the mom, so I was looking like a hot mess.
Yeah.
In like my robe, buying pints. With screaming kids.
Yeah, and I don't have kids. And nothing against kids or anything, but thank God I don't have kids, because I really honestly think I would be in a position to where either my parents would be raising my children or the state would be raising my children. And I don't know. I think that's another thing about our state that doesn't do very well is taking care of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I would have just been feeding a couple more people into a system that just, because of some issues that I have with myself that are just
and they get so much bigger when you have kids, because I have 2 kids, just so everyone knows. Both of my kids are autistic, which was its own journey for me, and it definitely affected my drinking. And when your kids are little, it's so much easier to put on like an act of who you want them to think you are. But as they get older, those little cracks start to show and get bigger, and they start putting together the puzzle that you don't want them to see. And you kind of get to a crossroad where like you have to decide how much further you want to keep digging, because that was my addiction. Is like I just wouldn't put down the shovel.
Right.
Like, I just could not stop digging, even when my body had like totally gone to shit. Because alcoholism is a messy condition.
Yeah.
Even when you're young. I stopped at 30.
I stopped at 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess when we got to 30, we're like, we can't be drunks anymore.
Like honestly, it was, so my birthday is July 15th and my sobriety date is August 15th. So a month to the day, I quit drinking. And
that's so crazy, because my birthday is January 16th and my sobriety date's February 13th. So.
Yeah, so it's
something
like,
about that.
I turned 30 and like I don't really remember my first drink all that well. Like I remember starting to drink. I drank a little bit in high school.
Yeah.
But I remember my last drunk very well. And it was...
me too.
Yeah, it was, it was coming to the end. I remember my 30th birthday, just this terrible drinking spree that I don't really think anybody but me could have gone through. I remember having this giant cooler full of beer. I remember having a bunch of people over at my house, and I remember just feeling like the loneliest person in the world at that moment.
Yeah, and that's like one thing I don't think people touch on with like addiction that much is like alcoholics love to be around people. We're not nodding off in the corner.
Right.
Like, we're ready to party. And the weird thing is like the further and deeper you get into your addiction, you can be around your favorite people and feel completely alone. Like, that's just what the addiction does. My 30th, my husband planned for the first time ever like this really elaborate like 30th date night and like babysitter, and I was so drunk before dinner that I made an absolute mockery of myself and like the night, and like it was just, and even when it was happening I knew it was a disaster and I could not stop it, because when you're blackout drunk, like, you're not gonna get sober
like
quickly.
Yeah.
And I just hated myself. Like, I hated that was me. I hated that somebody I loved planned this like wonderful event for me to enjoy myself, and I shit all over it before it even began.
Yeah.
And then made them feel, awful. Like, I wouldn't want to be on the other side of the table for that.
Right. Yeah, I was living with my sister and she had her daughter, only one kid at the time, but she was dating her now husband, and they were just getting to a point where they were like, we can't have this guy.
Yeah, bro,
here.
You need to go.
Yeah, and I remember, it had kind of come to a point, because I really wish that my birthday was the day that I was like, and no more from here on out. I need to get help now. But it still took a month before it was like, okay, I need to be done,
You were doing more research? Just a little more research.
Like, well, maybe it'll change, But it just didn't.
Yeah. And like every time I thought it couldn't get worse, it did.
Absolutely.
And
every time.
Every time. And I would have certain days that I could not have 3 pints. I'd have like 2 shooters and like a tall boy.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, I did great today. I totally have a handle on this. And then like the next day I'd have like 2 glasses of wine and like 1 shooter. And I'd be like, see?
Yeah.
I got this. And the next day I'd have a half gallon.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd be like, maybe not.
Yeah.
I totally don't.
I only drank 12 beers today. That was, what a good day. And it was beer only. Like, I didn't even think about having a shot,
Yeah, mine was liquor, 98%. I don't know if you get that vibe from me, but
yeah. You know what? I really wish and sometimes I think about that too. I'm like, God, what a wimp I was, because I didn't.
No, you saved yourself a lot of heart, because like I had the DTs. Like, it took 7 months for me to stop puking every morning.
I drank mostly beer. I did do some hard liquor.
Okay.
No,
I did some beer.
Yeah, I did mostly beer, but like it was beer And then, before I did beer, it was a lot of pill. I used to. It was pills. It was Xanax. It was Percocets. It was OxyContin, and as much as I could get my hands on. So it was like, but at that time it was pills first, and then wash it down with beer.
Yeah.
And then whenever it came down to it, it was like, well, beer's really the only thing that I could handle. So, every once in a while I'd do shots, and it was like the, Fireball or just anything that I think about now.
I make the gag face, but don't think me and Fireball didn't have
right.
some time.
Because, and that's the whole thing, is it was never anything like, did you ever watch movies where they're like, it always trips me out. It used to trip me out whenever I drank, but it trips me out even more when you see these people like walking around with just like that little tiny amount of like scotch or whiskey in a glass, and they've got like ice to like smooth it out, and I'm like, who drinks that much alcohol?
No, like when I first got to the meetings and they would say like, learn to drink like a gentleman, that's what I would think of. Yeah. And I'd be like, no one fucking drinks that way. I
don't know anybody that drank that way, but I also don't know anybody that was drinking this
a normal.
I mean, the people that I drank with drank like I did.
Yeah, and like the deeper you go, like you just find your people, because there's always going to be people that drink to excess or use to excess that make you feel more comfortable about your own shitty decisions.
But it's one of those things where it's like, they weren't calling into work.
I know. They didn't lose their car keys every day.
Yeah. They weren't.
They always found their bed.
They weren't
not
like
someone else's.
They weren't seeing like drag marks home from,
oh God,
breaking an axle.
Where's my side mirror?
What the heck did I do?
Yeah.
And they just weren't having
I
issues.
know. I used to like trip out about that, and then I'd always have an excuse like preloaded. I'm like, well, but I didn't eat yesterday.
Right.
So like I was more fucked up, or like I worked out really hard, so like when I started drinking, I got more fucked up than they did.
Yeah.
And I had so many excuses. By the time I got in the rooms, the reason I think it finally worked is because, like, I had been sick of my shit, but I was sick of my shit.
Yeah.
Like, I would have licked dog shit to get sober. If you told me that, like, step 3 was go outside,
and just
I would have.
Eat some white dog shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And document it.
And you know what's funny is I remember in that like month time period before getting sober, like telling friends like, man, I think I have a problem drinking. And it's like, I think the biggest one was I was hanging out with them, and they were like, well, if he has a problem drinking,
they're like, no, you don't, because that would mean
maybe I do.
But so you definitely don't.
But it's like, I was like, man, I think I need to quit. But I remember the day that it was like, I needed to stop. It was like my dad finally called, and like he worked out of town, and him and he would stay at the house sometimes.
Yeah.
And it was like, like I said, I had this giant cooler full of beer, and I did. I had this big giant cooler that would hold like 300 and some odd beers. Cool. And my dad was gone for like a week, and he came back, and he had left, and that cooler was full of beer. And when he came back a week later, it was empty. And it was like, he called, and he was like, son, are you drinking now? And I, beer in hand, I was like, no. And he's like, you can lie to me, but he's like, you need to stop lying to yourself. And it was like, I think it was the next day or day after, I tried not to drink, and I was successful, but it was like, I gotta do something.
I couldn't sit in my own skin.
Yeah. Because it was just, this could not go on anymore.
Yeah, and like, when you're not, for me, when I wasn't in a recovery program, all I would think about was like the forever part.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to do this forever? I'm never going to have fun again.
Yeah.
I'm like never going to enjoy. I wasn't having fun then.
Right.
That was the problem.
Yeah.
And like, I'm never going to enjoy concerts, movies, anything social.
What
And
about
then-
weddings?
What about holidays?
Yeah. People
What-
invite me to their
What
wedding.
about New Year's and Christmas and Saturdays? Like,
Yeah.
like I remember going into the room. We've talked about it too. When someone would say, "I have 33 years," I'd be like, "That does not include holidays and nights.
Right,
Like
yeah.
that's not nights and weekends."
Bullshit, you do. Yeah.
So, and I still thought that this time when it finally did sink in, but I just didn't give a shit. I was like, I don't care if you're lying.
Right.
Go, just lie.
Yeah,
I
tell
don't
me-
care. I
tell me
have
how-
to be
yeah.
here.
And then I think that was the other thing is whenever I did finally find a program that worked, it was like, you know, I walked in and I remember that it was this little old lady who was like, "Well, you look like you're in the right place," and it was because, you know,
Because you did?
because I did, you know, I think I was pale, I was sweaty.
Oh, the
Like,
sweat.
yeah,
Like,
just this horrible, and I know I smelled bad because I know I smell bad because I'm just
Like
I'm
on
just
a
kind
good
yeah
day.
just on a good day because I'm a sweaty guy, you know, and it's like I was sweating out all these years and just I don't know however many hundreds of
Toxins.
beers and whatever else I had done in that time that I needed to quit, and it was like this was she knew, you know.
I think it's the look in our eyes because I can spot it now.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
like I used to think, since I drank so much vodka, I was the dumbass that was like, no one can smell it.
Can't smell it.
So, and it's so funny because like now when people come in and I can smell it like on them, or if they're sweating it out of them, it smells like death. Like, so, I smell like death for sure for a long time too. But I didn't look at anybody in the face for months. I knew what our home groups like the floor and
Right.
people's shoes look like before their faces.
Yeah.
Like voice and shoes is how I'd identify people.
And I can't remember because you came in after me, but how close did you sit to the door?
Oh, yeah. I had an exit strategy. Like
Yeah.
a year and a half in, I still had an exit strategy. I was like, I don't know. I thought I have like army instincts that I'm like, where's the exits?
Yeah.
Let's just scope them out.
I
I might need to run.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that I picked up from drinking because it's like, you know, what if I accidentally passed out at somebody's house, and I didn't want them to find out
Yeah.
anything, or I didn't want to face maybe something I had done.
Yeah.
I got out.
Oh yeah, I did so many Irish goodbyes. No
Yeah.
one ever knew where I was because
No.
I would get to a point I knew I was way too intoxicated, and I'd be like, "We gotta go." Like,
Get-
I don't know what I'm gonna puke on,
Yeah.
or like.
Oh my god.
So I got well known for just like, we don't know when you're gonna leave tonight, so we'll just.
So I kind of feel like we're kind of hitting our. This is what our topic's going to be, and I think it's good as a first episode to be kind of our drunk a lot
Yeah,
because
we're not gonna do
yeah,
this.
because how we got to where we're at, I think is a good way to say where we're at because, you know, the last, because I can remember there were good times. You
See,
know,
we're laughing a lot through
Yeah.
this, and to be very clear, it's way funnier now
yeah,
than it was for years. Like, I didn't laugh about any of this shit for years because I had so much guilt
yeah,
about the way I lived, the version of myself that I was, and like what I found okay to like go out in the world doing
Yeah.
and being. So it is funny to talk about now because we're so many years removed from it. But it was not fun.
no,
Like, we're not talking about like the throwing up blood and like shaking all day, not being able to hold a conversation, anxiety.
yeah,
The anxiety of all things, the paranoia.
and I think the paranoia of, you know, I knew that what I was, and like deep down I knew what I was doing was wrong,
Yeah.
and I just didn't know why or how it was wrong because it was just like, you know, I wasn't even 30 yet. I was like, you know, I'm just enjoying my 20s, and you know, whenever I look back on it now, it's like, I didn't enjoy one bit of my
I hated
20s.
my 20s.
Yeah,
When people are like, I'd love to go back to my 20s, I'm like, that
not
was
me.
a shit show
No.
for me.
No,
So-
I remember when I turned 21, my friend took me out for that birthday because it was like finally I could go.
I can legally drink.
I can go into a bar
Yeah.
and drink, and we went to this casino now that I now live pretty close to.
I know.
And it's like I don't remember leaving there, and it's like like I got off work early because it was just like I'm 21, but I had been drinking alcoholically for years before that, and I didn't think there was an issue. I didn't think I had a problem.
Yeah, because all my friends, like, I hung out with a group of people that, like, we were all athletes. A lot of us were going big places. Yeah. I have a heart condition, so I got my soccer scholarship stripped.
Yeah.
And so once that happened and that was, like, verified, then I was like, that's 14 years down the drain of just, like, training, dieting, hard work, like, so much stuff. And so, like, I went balls to the wall. And, like, I didn't do... Cake stands were obviously a thing. And I would just drink vodka. Like, I would just get the show on the road real quick. Because all my friends were going, like, in a direction as soon as I went to a really good high school. I'm sure you did, too. Because... we're not orphan Annies.
Right.
Like, we went to nice high schools with good educations. Like, everyone's parents had mapped out their futures.
Yeah.
I had no fucking clue what I was going to do. Because if I couldn't play soccer, I was like, who am I? I don't even have hobbies.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
You know what?
I like Harry Potter. So how do you make that into a full-time
turn that
career?
into something. Yeah, I mean, I did go to a good high school, and I got to a point in that high school where I wasn't doing the best that I could have done, and my parents moved me to a better high school. Like, it was a, more situated, like, to what I could do, and I ended up not completing that either, but I did immediately, like, I was like, I'm done with high school. Because it was going to be another year.
Yeah.
So I got my GED. But I went to college after that. Like,
I didn't take an... Okay, so one funny thing about my drinking, I was supposed to take my SAT. Everyone was. And their ACT.
Yeah.
I was too hungover to take both. So I just didn't take either, ever. I've never taken either. So when I went to the community college, they're like, where are your grades? And I was like, here's my high school grades.
There it is.
So I had to take some, like, entry exam because they're like, so you're just retarded. You're in the right place. So.
Yeah. No, so, I went to college after that. It was, went to college in Phoenix, and that was where I discovered drugs were a really good thing. Because that was the whole thing, is I was like, I'm in college, and I need to
do college things.
I need to do college things.
Yeah.
And that was...
So I need to get fucked.
Yeah, I need to get hammered all the time.
Yeah.
And it was like, right around 21, I was done with college, so I had gotten a job. I worked in the oil field, and it was like,
yeah, so you made money.
Yeah, so I made money. I made a lot of money.
I am winning
in
life.
It was like, and there was kind of that mentality, like, work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, I am going to work hard, and I'm going to play very hard.
I'm going to play so hard.
Yeah. And it was like...
See, when I was 21, it's funny because I broke up with my abusive ex, who was single for a whole 6 days, and then got with my husband.
Right.
And before I turned 22, I got pregnant with our daughter. So in my mind, I was like, I escaped a really bad situation, and now I'm going to go live. But instead, I got a lifetime souvenir for my funness.
There you go.
And so I was not that being a 22-year-old mom is super young, but in my mindset and my maturity level, it was like a 12-year-old having a baby. And with my husband's, it was like an 11-year-old having a baby.
And I feel like, and I don't know if you felt that way when it happened, but I was always thinking, like, in this partying and all this other stuff,
Yeah.
some woman is going to be like, I'm going to tame this guy. And I thought, I'm going to meet somebody, I'm going to get them pregnant, and then that's going to calm me down. And I'm finally going to be able to just be, a dad,
Just
a
need this
husband.
girl.
And this girl is just going to be like, yep, thank God she came into my life.
See, and I did kind of do that. Like, my husband was on, like, a pretty destructive path. My ex was on a destructive path. I like projects, is what I learned about myself. So, like, I like to build Legos. And he was on a really destructive path, and I did come in, and I was like, don't worry, I'll save you. And then I came out pregnant.
There you go.
So, and then it was a lot harder because, like, both of us were immature, both of us had addiction issues. I didn't identify being an alcoholic then, but it quickly manifested after my daughter was born because lots of hormones. Any girl that watches this, the hormones after a baby, like the way your body looks, the way you feel. My daughter had colic, which means she cried for 16 hours a day.
Right.
So I didn't feel good enough being a mom, and then she cried that much, and I was like, I suck at this, and I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah.
Like, I watched all the Gerber commercials. Not one of them had this.
No.
And I read what to expect when you're expecting, like, 6 times. None of the things I went through with my daughter were in that book. And I was just a failure from the get-go. And I couldn't let my husband know, and I couldn't let my parents know, because everyone thought I was thriving. And I made it look like I was thriving. And there was this one day that Gabe knew I was kind of losing my mind. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I put diapers, like I stuffed them in the back of the closet and then like put like blankets over them. And I was like, we need diapers. And he was like, okay, well, just go get diapers. And I didn't know what I was going to go do, but I needed something. And so Kai was 3.5 months old. I lied about getting diapers. I did get diapers and like 5 shooters.
Yeah.
And then for the first time in my drinking, as soon as I got in the car before I left the parking lot, I drank a shooter.
Wow.
Because I wasn't big on the like drinking in the car and like pre-gaming, like if I was driving. I downed 3 shooters before I even got home. And then I just walked in and I was like, I feel okay now.
Yeah.
Like, this is it.
Yeah.
They didn't put this in What to Expect When You're Expecting or any of the mommy books, but this is the thing. That's why they have, like, wino moms everywhere. Like, but fuck wine, because, like, vodka has less calories.
Yeah.
And I have a mom bod now.
Yeah, and, I mean, yeah, you are very concerned about, you've got to keep a good
Yeah,
look.
because I'm a small person.
Right.
And so, like, being heavier when you've gone your whole life a certain size, yeah. And girls have this thing, like, a guy gets you pregnant and you're, like, fun and cute and small, and then you get knocked up, and afterwards you're like, he ain't gonna be interested in this. There's a watermelon that just came out of me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that ain't cute. Like, my butt turned into J-Lo. There was a lot of things going on.
See,
And guys really don't think that way, but it took so many years of marriage to figure out. Like, I could have kept on 20 pounds and it would have been fine.
right.
But for me, it wasn't fine.
Yeah.
And even if Kai was like a smiley, happy baby, I still wasn't okay with me. And I needed to fix that in the quietest way possible.
Yeah. Because it could have been any way.
Yeah.
'Cause, like I was saying, like, I was hoping this magical woman would come along and say, I dated a girl in high, like, we were like, it was looking to be this like high school sweetheart thing, and she was a very sweet girl. Her parents were together. She was, this awesome girl. She did like volunteer work for the Ronald McDonald House. She was just this really neat person. And, like in the beginning, whenever I was, freshman, sophomore age, it was fine. Our relationship was great and it was thriving and all this other good stuff. And then I kind of started dabbling with, drinking and trying drugs and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
She wasn't like that, you know. She was very kind of straight laced. You know, if she did go out to a party, she was like, even back then, under the age of 18, she was very, well, I could have like maybe a drink, you know, because like I've got.
I will have half of a beer.
Half of a beer, maybe. And I was like,
and then I'll wait 3 hours before.
I was like, I've got till midnight to get fucked up, so I'm gonna do it. And you know, we dated a little bit after high school, and then she finally left me. And I remember being so heartbroken.
Yeah.
Because, you know, all the times that I had threatened to break up with her when I was drunk or high or whatever, you know, they didn't matter. It was when she finally left me that I was like, how could she do that?
How dare you?
Yeah. Doesn't she know I'm hurting? And even after that, it was like, I was so hurt.
That victim mentality, once it sets in, it just gets stronger and stronger. And like, yeah, it took a while for me. Once my brain switched to like the victim, when both of my kids got diagnosed with autism 6 months apart, but they're 2 years apart. So Kai was 4.5 and Bubba was 18 months old. Is that right, math wise?
Sounds about right.
She might have only been 4. I don't know. Anyway, but when Bubba got diagnosed, that's when I would like it really switched, because I was like, seriously, God, 2 autistic kids? I'm already failing at this. So like, how much harder can you make it? And like, we'd had multiple miscarriages. Hormonally, now that like my kids are almost 11 and 13, I was like such a mess hormonally, but no one talks about that. Like no one talks about like the female body changes, because I had Kai, went to my 6-week appointment, was pregnant.
Wow.
And I was like, my doctor was mad because C-sections, you gotta wait. Didn't follow that advice. Lost that. And it was just like this. Then I got drunk because I was like, I had something to drink over.
Yeah.
And I started this pattern without consciously thinking about it, that like, just give me a reason to drink.
Right.
And I just kept following that.
Any reason.
Yeah. I stubbed my toe today.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like little things like, where's the mailbox key? I probably need a shot.
Yeah.
And a like phone call with my parents, because they both kind of knew something was going on. And like when they would call me, I'd be like, oh my God, I have to take a shot before I answer this. Or signing kids' permission slips, I'd be like, I need a shot before I do this, because that makes sense. Yeah. So it was like, by the time I even was like aware, like this might be weird, I was so far gone. Like I was so deep into it, and then you feel so dumb, because once you know you have a problem, then you're like, you track back in your mind and you're like, so this so we've been going down this path for a long time.
Because I mean, when I think about it, it's like, like towards the end of my drinking, it was bad. Yeah. But it's like, it wasn't good from the start. You know, I don't remember a time where I was ever actually able to, like, I think, you know, like I mentioned my sister, like, they can go out and have a beer, and in the middle of it, be like, I don't want this anymore. Or go out to have a beer, and then even before they have it, go like, yeah, never mind, I changed my mind, you know? Like,
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I just never had that. I never did that, you know?
Even if I didn't want it, I was going to drink it.
Yeah.
Even if I'd be like, I've had the stomach flu for 3 days, but like, I'll take a Bloody Mary.
Yeah, it'll probably help. Yeah.
I mean, what's that going to do?
Like, I remember, you know, when my grandpa was still alive, you know, he did this, you know, it's kind of like a rite of passage or whatever. I went up and we had a steak, you know, I helped him with this project in his yard. Yeah. And, you know, he cooked us a steak, and he was like, you know, I've been having steak and a beer. And he had these 2 frosted mugs, and he poured me a beer. He poured himself a beer. We had a steak, a potato, and a beer. And it was like, you know, I was like, that was great.
Yeah.
Can I have another beer, Grandpa?
Yeah.
And my grandpa just kind of was like, that's not what we're doing. We're just having a steak and a beer. And it was like, in my head, even then, at a young age, even this thing that, I feel like was supposed to be this like meaningful moment with my grandpa,
Yeah.
was kind of just clouded by this. I gotta have another one of those. Like,
I'll just wait till you go to bed.
steak, potato, whatever, dude. I want another one of those beers.
Yeah.
I didn't care if it was in a frosted mug, like,
Yeah, I took a senior trip with my ex to upstate New York. Really quiet part of New York. There wasn't much to do. Beautiful. And
Right.
his grandparents, we stayed there, and every night for like the last 50 years, they had a nightcap. And when I say a nightcap, I mean like the tiniest little bit
right.
of scotch. And like they had this really nice bottle, and like we were 18, and so they're like, you graduated high school, whatever. The drinking age used to be 18 in their day.
Yeah.
So they're like, you guys can have one.
Yeah.
And I remember his little tiny grandma in her little robe pouring 4 glasses, and immediately in my head I was like, that's not gonna be enough.
Yeah.
And like my ex was a huge drinker too, and even he like accepted the fact. He's like, yeah, this is cool, we're doing this with my grandparents. And I did wait until they went to bed, and he went to bed.
Oh yeah.
And like I didn't even know them very well, but I was like, I'm just gonna have a little bit more,
Just a little tiny bit.
because like I don't sleep good, because I always had an excuse.
Yeah.
Like
All of a sudden, yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not gonna sleep good because this is a new place, and like this house is kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just gonna need a little bit more just to
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
And then I convinced him, like the next day, I was like, what we could do. And so like that's something I learned in the rooms of like, I wasn't a very good influence.
No.
Of just like, it'd be a fun idea.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot more.
And like, you should do it with me. And
Yeah, because I don't want this to feel like.
yeah, I don't want to do this by myself,
Yeah.
because that's weird.
Because that'd be weird.
So like, you do it with me, and then that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. There was a lot of that during the. I mean, but I had to do my research, because otherwise I wouldn't be
Yeah.
where I'm at. Because I think for the I want to say it's about 15 years of
Hard.
good,
Yeah.
hard alcoholism to now I've
Yeah,
got,
mine's about the same.
Yeah.
Of like, because I started probably at 15. Like I had taken beers from like my friends' parents' houses, but
Yeah.
vodka at 15 was my first like. Somebody gave me a cheap shot of vodka. It burned my nose. I never tasted something that terrible. Like it'd never been in my body, so I didn't know how much it burns your face. And all I remember thinking was, that's the worst thing I've ever done and put inside of my body.
Yeah.
When can I do it again? Because I just felt like this boost of confidence. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what it was. It was like every insecurity I'd ever had disappeared. Like, oh, are those girls over there talking about me? Oh, like just any little thing, because what I learned in the room is I was so self-absorbed. I thought I was just like anxious, but I always thought everyone was talking about me. Everybody. So like if I heard someone whispering, it was about me. And like if I walked into a party and someone was looking at me and said something to someone else, they were saying something about me.
Yeah.
And so I had to drink to like be like, oh well, fuck you. I mean, screw you then, Miss Lady.
Well, I went from being this, fat kid, that like I don't know this. And for the longest time, my voice didn't change. Like my voice didn't get deep until kind of later. Like I was kind of this late bloomer, I guess. I was like.
You're just a little guy.
Yeah,
It's okay.
And I was kind of short, but I remember just like I did get picked on for being short, fat, and it was like all of a sudden whenever I was drinking,
It didn't matter.
I wasn't fat anymore.
Yeah.
It was like I was just a funny guy,
And
I did funny
I
things.
had to be that. I
Yeah.
had to be the comedian, because
Oh,
like there was a lot. Like I got made fun of a lot for different things. Girls are vicious in general. You could be really attractive, and like some girl will
Yeah.
say something about you, and I think it happens with guys too, and it just sticks with you. for the rest of your life. You can go to a therapist for 20 years and that comment will still stick.
Eats at your soul.
So, yeah, girls were like really, really mean to me. But when I drank, I didn't care. Like, I didn't care I had a big nose. I didn't care that I had a flat chest. Like, I just didn't give a shit.
Right.
I just wanted to be the funniest chick in there. Because if you were laughing, you weren't making fun of me.
Yeah.
And I'm so bad about doing it in the meetings. Because, like, when I have something uncomfortable to say, I will immediately follow it with a joke. Yeah. Like, there'll be, like, really raw honesty. And then just, like, how do I spin this?
Yeah.
So it's not uncomfortable for other people.
Yeah, because now it's like if I've got somebody laughing, they're not, I'm making them laugh. I'm not thinking about how am I going to pay for these things that I've taken on or what am I going to do about this or these other things. Like how my wife's been struggling with her job. Like, how do I fix that? And it's like there is no way for me to fix her struggling with her job. You know, she just, that's her thing to go through. And I think that's the other thing is all through my drinking, I wanted this like savior, like, oh, this woman to come in and save me. And it's like, like there's a reason that in an airplane, they're like, put your mask on first. I couldn't let some poor woman be this rescuer, like to just bring me up out of the pits and nuzzle me.
I still don't do that. Like, I used to think like me giving all of myself, like to the kids, special needs kids take a lot of extra work. Mm-hmm. Being married takes a lot of work. Having so many dogs. Jay has 4 dogs. I have 3 dogs. Yeah. We have 7 dogs together.
Because, if one dog's good.
2 dogs. Way better. And if you get sad enough, sometimes you need 3.
Yeah, there they are talking.
And Jay has a cat now and chicken.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, like, he doesn't have kids, but he has filled his life with responsibilities.
Yeah. And sometimes, and in all honesty, I am unemployed at the moment as well, and I'm like, how the hell, thank God I have my wife, because she's paying for most of it, man.
Jay's wife is amazing. She's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
So I met them as a couple, funny story, and I kind of, like, forced my way into a friendship. So,
but we took our time being friends, and I think that's the other thing is, I think I had kind of met you first.
Yeah.
This was like pandemic stuff, so like it was easy to know everybody's shoes because
we were also really desperate for connection because the pandemic had happened and our meeting closed.
Yeah.
And I was a year sober pretty much when that happened.
She had met me right after a dry spell. Like I had, my wife and I were living in Wyoming, and for whatever reason, like I just my antidepressants weren't working, I guess. So I was like, I'm going to move my ass back to New Mexico. I moved in with my mom, and it was just like I was going through this horrible dry spell. I hadn't been to any meetings or anything in like a year. And finally, I had called a friend back, and I finally started going back to meetings. But that was the most raw I had ever been, and my shares were very raw and mostly bitching about like Jeep drivers on the road.
I was gonna say the driving.
And frickin' Chelsea was just like, your shares are awesome, dude. They're just the best. I was like,
thank God that there's someone else funny here.
Who the hell is telling me that I'm awesome? I'm like,
yeah, and I have noticed in sobriety that I tend to, if I feel some type of like connection because I feel so not like ostracized, but I'm different than a lot of people, then I like go after it and I'm like, hi, we'll be friends now.
We're friends, we're buddies.
Yeah, and I did do that, and then Wendy came and I was like, you guys like the same TV shows as me.
Oh yeah, Alone.
And so like oh yeah, I don't know if we can.
Yeah, well,
we watch a lot of the same. I think we can.
Yeah.
We watch Alone.
Anyway.
And like a lot of other things, a lot of the same shows.
A lot of the same stuff. But yeah.
it just clicked. Like, and I was like, you're just I don't want to say messy. We're just both trying really freaking hard.
Yeah.
And, like, our hard looked different than most people in the room.
Right.
And we also presented it different than most people in the room. Because there's a lot of people that they can be having a terrible day, and you've heard them too, and they have the most polished shares. And I'm like, not one day in my life has been that polished.
No. If I'm having a terrible day, I think everybody should know.
Yeah, there's sometimes when I'm done that I'm like, I don't know what I said. But I feel better. And then I look around the room and I'm like, no one, I just gave everyone PTSD.
Yeah, awful.
But there's nothing Jay's ever said that, like, I really don't relate to. So,
yeah.
The podcast idea, which is funny, because I had a pool party with Jay's wife and another girlfriend. Jay brought it up. This is the third person that's brought up a podcast to do with me, and Jay's the only one that I was like, let's just do it.
Let's give it a shot.
Because...
And here we are.
Yeah.
So, I don't think every episode is going to be Drunkalogs.
No.
I think this is a good get to know us. You know, here we are. Here's who we are. But I think the biggest thing that we are going to touch upon in this podcast is sobriety.
Yeah. Recovery.
Recovery is the biggest thing that we're doing. And, you know, it's fun to talk about the stuff that happened in the past because the past is the past, and there's no way to get around that. That's our past, and that's
the past is what got us here, and here's where we're supposed to be.
Yeah. So this is the Last Stop Recovery podcast. I'm looking at the battery life on my computer here, and I think we've done a pretty awesome episode.
Yeah, we've done pretty good.
Yeah. So
every episode we're going to talk about recovery no matter what, but we're going to talk about life stuff because, like, recovery is interwebbed into our life. It's just a fabric of our being now. But we're just trying to do life. Like, that's the biggest thing. Yeah. We're not better than anybody else. I don't think we're better than anyone else.
Hell no.
But we know what it took to get here. The funny thing about Last Stop, it is so hard to find a podcast name. There's so many podcast names. So this was created by an AI generator.
Yeah, because, I mean, what else are you going to do? The computer knows how many.
The AIs know everything now. So, and it works. So if you got anything out of this, that's the whole point. We have felt alone outside of meetings. We have felt alone inside of meetings.
Yeah. So, and I really think I think there's a lot more to recovery than just, you know, it's meeting with somebody in meetings, you know, it's meeting with people, but I think there's a lot more to healing and a lot more to figuring out what is going on, because recovery is about living life, and just because you quit, I don't think I would be able to live life if all I did was give up drinking.
Yeah, part of the reason we got sober was to live life, not just survive it. Yeah. And a lot of active addiction is barely surviving. And sometimes recovery is barely surviving. So remembering to live and be grateful for, like, what we do have, no matter where we came from.
Right.
Is why we're here. So, I think we did pretty good.
Yeah. So, with that, we will see you guys next time.